Hi, my name's Andrea. I work here at the museum. I am a museum enabler. I'm also doing my MA in art history, so this job is pretty perfect. I'm pretty well placed to be able to study alongside my job role, which I work full time. The two pieces I've chosen today are going to be L.S. Lowry's In Industrial Town versus Prunella Clough's Electrical Installation 3. The reason why I've done this is because one aspect of Lowry's sort of industrial town was based of northern England, of Salford, and it's something that's quite important to me in terms of my research, as how art can be accessible, and accessible to people who may not necessarily come to a gallery and expect to know anything about the background or the author or the artist or anything to do with like that. The reason why I've chosen to sort of put Prunella Clough next to that piece is because it looks almost like a zoomed in version of one of Lowry's backgrounds. And Prunella Clough was actually hugely inspired by L.S. Lowry, which I think is quite a really special connection. And I think that's what's so wonderful about the two being so close together in Gallery 21. And I think that's a really nice relationship for me as I'm walking around, as well as in my thoughts. One of the main features about a Lowry painting is the sort of tiny matchstick men, the bellowing sort of belching towers with the coals and the grey buildings. And I think what's wonderful about an industrial town especially is the fact that it's set in winter. It's a part of the weather that's typically British. It's very sort of normal for us to have this kind of cold, sort of frosty grey sky, and I think Lowry used that quite often. And I think what's lovely about Prunella Clough is that she kept the same colour palette. So I think that's what makes these pieces feel really homely. And the reason why I talk about being accessible to people who may not necessarily know anything about the author is that these are very real situations. I think what's really exciting about Lowry's work especially is that it could be anybody's city, it could be anyone's town, especially here in Birmingham. The weather conditions are the same, and you've got this wonderful level of pathetic fallacy which play between both pieces that I've chosen to compare against each other. You've got the colour tones matched in Prunella Clough's piece, and it looks like it could almost be a tiny snapshot of the background of one of L.S. Lowry's. I actually grew to love both of these pieces. Lowry was an artist that I remember being taught when I was very small, and I think that's quite true for a lot of people. They were very much one of the first artists that they were actually introduced to, mainly because it's quite easy to replicate when you're in art class and you do the little matchstick men. But what's important about these pieces is the fact that they remind me of home, and they remind me of Birmingham. I think most of the visitors who come here do always gravitate towards a Lowry, mostly because they're surprised that we actually have two of them. We're very lucky to have two, but they also gravitate towards it because it reminds them of something nostalgic. It's something that they had perhaps forgotten about in their past. And I think what's wonderful about Prunella Clough is that that is almost an abstraction of that. You're looking at something that is so much more sort of detailed, and you can see her love for Lowry's work within her own, because she's taken a point and she's blown it wide open and made it massive, and she's turned it into something really ethereal and beautiful.